So the 7 Archons, typically short to 7, are the 7 gods who preside over the 7 nations of Teyvat. Each Archon is associated with an element and an idol, by which they formed their territories, environment and determined their method of governance over their nations. However, the original 7 were the victors of the Archon War 2000 years before the main story, and each Archon has an internal magic focus called a Genesis, which allows them to resonate directly with Celestia. By comparison, visions are primitive, though what exactly a Genesis is capable of, as well as its purpose beyond a symbol of an Archon's godhood, is still unknown. So an Archon's strength derives from the level of control they have on their respective nation. For example, Barbatos, who refuses to govern Mondstadt directly due to following his idol of freedom, and this is the reason he is the weakest of the 7, despite being the second oldest member. By contrast, Savista, who commands the cult like Fatui, is extremely powerful. So yeah, my dear Hilly trolls, although we have little info about most of the Archons other than Zhongli, Venti and Baal, so this list will be completely based on my opinion. So at number 7 we have Barbatos, also known as Lord Barbatos or the God of Freedom. He is the current Anemo Archon of the 7 who presides over Mondstadt. He is also one of the 2 original members of the 7 still alive at the start of the game. He currently wanders the world in a mortal disguise as the Bard Venti. Barbatos is undoubtedly the weakest Archon due to the fact that he has no control over Mondstadt. Even during the Archon War, he needed Andrea's help to defeat Decabian. In addition to this, Venti himself states that he is the weakest Archon. That said, Barbatos is not being reckless. He has 2600 years of wisdom on his shoulders, watching from the shadows as a lowly bard. And while he may seem lonely, Barbatos helped warm tundras, level mountains, and subjugated the 4 winds. After all, it was Barbatos that helped in overthrowing the previous Anemo Archon, Decabrian, in the Archon War. At number 6 we have the God of Wisdom, the Dendro Archon, the Lesser Lord Kusanali, also known as the Flower Archon. So far players are aware, the Sumeru's Dendro Archon is the youngest of the 7, having only 500 years of rule. The rest of the narrative is purely theory for the fans to piece together. However, given that the calamity of Khaenri'ah occurred 500 years ago, it is likely that the 2 events are connected. On the other hand, Genshin Impact fans were also given a little bit of information at the conclusion of the Inazuma's arc in the main story by Yaimiko. So at the Shrine Maiden's suggestion, it appears that the Sumeru Archon will use the female human form and will go by the name Lesser Lord Kusanali. Unlike the case with Inazuma's Archon, it appears that Kusanali will be a beloved goddess, adored by people, and in the game's dialogue we can see about why the Dendro Archon's own morals and rules can be used against him, cause it was stated in a dialogue, which was the God of Wisdom's enemy is wisdom itself, and the oasis of knowledge is a mirage in the desert of ignorance. In the city of scholars, there is a push for folly, yet the God of Wisdom makes no argument against it. Number 5, Fontaine, the God of Justice. So she is the current Hydro Archon among the 7 and presides over Fontaine. Little is currently known about her, besides the fact that she is not the original members of the 7 who emerged after the end of the Archon War. We don't know how much powerful the God of Justice is, cause she didn't actually fought in the Archon War, cause at some point after the 7 were established as rulers of Teyvat, the previous Hydro Archon passed away and the God of Justice was instated in her place. And with that being said, not all is lost, as some information about the Hydro Archon has come to light. Based on her description in the travel trailer, Fontaine is to be the skeptic among gods, judging them in her own country. It is likely that the events in Fontaine will paint the gods in a different color, the Archon, telling of their downsides and crimes. Number 4, Murata, the Pyro Archon. So Murata, also known as the God of War and the Lady of Fire, is mentioned in the prologue chapter of the manga. Well, isn't this title God of War describes her as how much powerful she must be? Well, she is the current Pyro Archon and the member of the 7 who presides over Natlan. Well, nothing is known about Murata's appearance besides the fact that she uses a female vessel based on Vanessa and Inshan's appearances. She and perhaps all the people of Natlan may have tanned skin or possibly red fiery hairs, but there is no doubt that she is one of the strongest Archons in Teyvat. And even one of the dialogues, Zhongli says, "War rages like a flame," and Venti describes her as a wayward, warmongering wretch, and in manga tells Vanessa that back in those days, warriors from every tribe would perform rites of combat and celebrate victories in her name. Come to think of it, she can be pretty obnoxious at times, and there are more dialogues about her, like the rules of war are woven in the womb. The victor shall burn bright, while the losers must turn to ash. When the god of war shares the secret with the traveler, it is because she has her reasons, and by all these things we can surely assume that if she is not the strongest but one of the strongest archons in Teyvat. Well guys, in number 3 and number 2 I was confused on who to rank, so it's just my opinion and nothing will be changed if this character is number 3 or number 2. So yeah, at number 3 we have Baal, the Electro Archon. Well, she is the vessel of Beelzebul, the current Electro Archon of Inazuma, and meditates inside the plane of Eternia while letting her puppet control the daily affairs of the nation. And I guess I don't have to tell how strong Shogun really is. I mean, with one blow she finished Signora. She defeated the traveler easily in their first encounter. She slew Orobashi by herself, and let me tell you, Orobashi was pretty powerful god. She cut a mountain in half with just one blow, and Beelzebul has still retained some of her power due to her isolation in the plane of Eternia and the fact that she is willingly cut off her ties with Celestia. So yeah, by all this you can assume how strong the Electro Archon really is. Number 2, Morax, also known as Rex Lapis. Well, Morax is sometimes referred to as Rex Lapis, but Genshin Impact's players know him better by the name Zhongli. He is over 6,000 years old, which makes him the oldest character in Genshin Impact thus far. Morax represents the ideals of contracts in Liyue. He has very different relationship with his people, and yes, Morax has been stated to define the economic growth of Liyue and consequently a major influence on the relations between the nations. Morax also has the great combat powers. During the Archon War, Morax created the stone forest of Gunyon with his own spears. Zhongli has first-hand experience with much of Teyvat's history, including the start of the Archon War. During a certain battle, despite their efforts and the aid of the Adepti, Guizhong was slain and the Guili assembly was destroyed. Sometimes afterward, Zhongli moved his people and established Liyue Harbor, where it stands to this day. However, Morax has now been retired from being an Archon, and now he lives among the people as a mortal named Zhongli. And finally, number 1, the Savitsa, also known as the Cairo Archon. So the Savista's current ideal is unknown, but she has been presented as one of the main antagonists in Genshin Impact thus far. She wishes to burn the old world away and is likely using the Genesis she has collected to do so. And why she is the strongest? Well, I am saying this because she has successfully collected all the Genesis so far, and by collecting Genesis of other Archons, she can get other Archons' powers too. And we should not forget that she is the one controlling the Fatuis. And yes, with supreme rule over Snezhnaya, she uses her loyal followers in the Fatui to manipulate and intimidate the other nations of Teyvat. She also has the ability to grant her subjects powers from separate regions called delusions. Fatui Chunin mages, pyro agents, and mirror maidens use one in battle, and it is said all 11 Fatui harbingers possess one as well. So yeah, my dear Hillbilly trolls, this is my list of all the Archons from weakest to strongest. And if you like this video, then give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe to this channel, and also tell us which Archon is your favorite. And now take care, my dear Hillbilly trolls.